Hello dear students. This is Mr. Hitesh Patel, Assistant Professor LJ Institute of Engineering and Technology. Today in this video series we will discuss basic mechanical engineering. So today's topic is the difference between flat belt drive and V belt drive, the difference between individual drive and group drive, comparison between belt drive, gear drive and chain drive, okay, and the bearings. So first of all, let's start with the difference between flat belt drive and V belt drive. So flat belt drive is suitable for moderate power transmission when the distance between two shafts is large. When there is large distance and we need to transfer the power, at that time flat belt drive is used. And V belt drive is suitable for high power transmission but when the distance between two shafts is small. There is a chances of the slip due to less frictional grip between the pulleys and the belt. Hence, it is not a positive contact drive. But in belt drive, there is less chances of the slip due to more frictional grip between the pulley and belt. For flat belt drive, we require larger space, and in V belt drive, due to compactness, we require very less space. High velocity ratio may not be obtained by using flat belt drive, and by using V belt drive, we can obtain high velocity ratio. Now the next is the comparison between belt drive, chain drive and gear drive. Okay. So first comparison is based on elements. So in belt drive, pulleys and belts are used. In chain drive, we are using sprockets and chains, and in gear drive, gears are used. Slip. So in belt drive, there is a chances of slip. In chain drive, there is no chances of the slip, and in gear drive, there is no slipping. Suitability. So whenever we require to transfer the power from large center to center distance, at that time belt drive is used. For moderate center to center distance up to 3 meter, we can use chain drive, and for very short center distance, gear drives are used. Space. So for belt drive, space requirement is large. In chain drive, space requirement is less or moderate, and in gear drive, very less space is required. Design. So the design of the gear drive is very simple. Design of the chain drive is also very simple, but the design of the gear drive is complicated. Okay. Life of the belt drive is very less. Life of the chain drive is moderate, and gear drive is having very high or very long life. Lubrication. There is no requirement of lubrication in case of belt drive. In chain drive, there is little lubrication is required, and in gear drive, very high lubrication required. Installation cost of the belt drive is less. Installation cost of the chain drive is moderate, and installation cost or the gear drive is more. The belt drive are used for low velocity ratio. Chain drive are used for moderate velocity ratio, and gear drive are used for very high velocity ratio. So next is bearing. So what is the function of bearing? So bearing is a machine member which supports the moving machine element. Okay, and bearing is support against the radial load as well as axial load which impose over the shaft. And the bearing is used for reduce the frictional resistance of the moving element and resulting reduce the power loss. There are mainly two types of the bearing. The first is sliding contact bearing and second is rolling contact bearing. Okay. So let's discuss first sliding contact bearing. So from the name we can easily understand that in this type of bearing the motion between the shaft and the bearing surface is pure sliding. There are two types of the bearing. First is radial bearing and second is thrust bearing. In radial bearing, the load acts perpendicular to the axis of the shaft, and in thrust bearing, the load acts along the axis of the shaft. Here in this figure you can see that there is a shaft which provided a load is provided perpendicularly, that is the radial bearing, and in the second figure you can see that the load is along the axis of the shaft, so that is the example of thrust bearing. Next is rolling contact bearing. So in rolling contact bearing, the motion between the shaft and the bearing surface is pure rolling. It is also called as anti-friction bearing. Okay, so there are mainly two types of the rolling contact bearing. The first one is ball bearing and the second one is roller bearing. The ball bearing, in ball bearing there are two types of bearing. The first one is radial ball bearing and the second one is thrust ball bearing. In ball bearing, the balls, number of small diameter balls are installed between the bearings, and in roller bearing, number of rollers are fitted between the bearing. The roller bearing is divided into two types, radial roller bearing and the second one is tapered roller bearing. In ball bearing, it consists of two things. First one is inner race and second one is outer race. In inner, between the inner race and outer race, number of balls are fitted. So that is for ball bearing, and in roller bearing there is inner race and outer race. Between the inner race and outer race, number of rollers are fitted. The inner race is fitted over the shaft and there is transmission of the power takes place. Okay. Next is gear trains. So what is gear trains? So it is the arrangement of number of gears. The number of gears are arranged so that we can transmit the motion and power from one shaft to another shaft. Okay. The gear wheels are used in gear train and the gear are like spur gear, bevel gear or helical gear. We have already discussed spur gear, bevel gear and helical gears. In spur gear, we know that the transmission of the power takes place when the teeth of the gears are in mesh with each other and both the teeth are parallel to the axis of the shaft. In bevel gear, when we require to transfer the power at 90 degree, at that time bevel gears are used, and in helical gear, the teeth of the gear are the similar to the spur but that are at particular helix angle. Okay. So the velocity ratio between the driving and driven shaft depends upon the type of the combination of the gear wheel arranged in gear train. There are mainly four types of the gear train. The first one is simple gear train, the second is compound gear train, third is reverted gear train and the last is epicyclic gear train. Okay, next topic is drive. Okay. So what is drive? So first of all, drive is an intermediate mechanism which is used to transfer the power from the driving shaft to driven shaft. There are mainly two types of drive. The first one is individual drive and second one is group drive. In individual drive, we know that each machine has its own motor and starter. Mean all the machine has its own components. So individual drive is suitable for small size workshop, and with the help of individual drive we can control the speed of the machine because all the machines are connected with each other separately. Individual machine does not affect other machines, that we have already discussed that they all have their own motor, on starter, so they all are fitted individually. And when if any one motor stops working, then there may be not affecting, or if any one machine stops working or one failure of one motor does not affect the operation of other machines. But there is certain disadvantages of individual drive, that high initial investment is required for the installation of individual drive. Okay. Next is group drive. So group drive is suitable for medium and large size workshop. In group drive, one shaft is fitted over one powerful motor and entire floor or entire machine which fitted over that floor are operated by only one motor. From the name we can easily understand that in this type of drive, the main shaft will run entire shop floor machines. Okay. we are transferring power from one powerful motor to the main shaft transfer the power to the counter shaft, and counter shaft drives the machine shaft. Okay, so it is suitable for medium and large size workshop. A number of cone pulleys gives wide range of the speed, and there are certain disadvantages of using group drive. If there is failure of one main motor, then the entire shop floor or all the machine which runs over that main shaft will stop the working. And the advantage is that less initial or capital investment is required. Now the difference between individual drive and group drive. So individual drive is suitable for small size workshop, and the group drive is suitable for medium and large size workshop. In individual drive, each and every motor and starters are fitted individually, so speed of the machine can control separately, while in group drive a set of cone pulley give wide range of the speed. Individual machine does not affect other machine when there is failure of any motor, because it has its own motor and starter. But in group drive, all the machines are run by single motor which are fitted with the central main shaft. Okay, so failure of main motor will stop the entire group of machines. And individual drive, high capital investment is required, while in group drive less capital investment is required. So this is all about the bearings and drives. If you have any queries, then you can write down your comment in the comment section. Thank you for watching my video.